Alright, looks like things are finally getting underway. Thanks for tuning on in, guys. If you don't know me or recognize my voice, I am Blaze, and I'm going to be covering this game since Basekip has retired for the evening. He's over in Australia, so the time zone's pretty rough on him. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to be covering this game here. I'll throw up some stats for the two awesome teams that we get to spectate today. Starting off, we have Fnatic, which has pretty much been the same roster that we are very, very familiar with for quite some time here, at least since the Han days. And we have some interesting stats there. They're setting up. They seem to be pretty reliable. Their chance to throw is only 3 out of 10, and they do have a great amount of individual skill as well as team synergy, as they have been very, very well set up to play the past year and a half with very little interruptions as far as rosters go, and that's put them in a very, very competitive part of the scene. Anyways, comparing that to Virtus.pro, has had a bit of a shakeup recently, and they are running their relatively new roster with still one stand-in. Admiration today will be the one standing in, and he has been covering for them pretty frequently. Might be a permanent member, but for right now, that is to be announced. So right now we have NS, Arzart, G, and Light of Heaven, and they are going to be playing up against Fnatic. So let's get on into this awesome best of 3 series and start things off. Thank you guys so much for tuning on in. Again, I'm Blaze. This is the Dota 2 Champions League, and let's get into the draft. Looking over here, we have Wisp and OD banned out by Virtus.pro. Some start off, it's pretty standard Western bans, taking out one of the best mid laners in the game, as well taking out the most unpredictably powerful hero. Essentially, in the right hands, Wisp is just insane, and there's different ways to deal with them, but they don't want to have to force their draft in that fashion. So that's pretty much what we're looking at there, taking those off the board and making sure that they don't have to worry about that from this point on. Alrighty, so as far as the selections, we do see Lifesteal and Naga Siren picked up for Fnatic. Elder Titan and Troll Warlord are the pickups from Virtus.pro. Now, Troll and ET are both relatively new to the Captain's Mode draft. They've been introduced with the last patch prior to the one that is forthcoming, and they have already made a huge splash. The Elder Titan with his aura primarily, of course he has great initiation tools and great ways to counter-push creep waves and survive for a long time, but the Natural Order is probably the one thing that defines the hero that he offers that many other heroes cannot, and that makes it so that everything that they do just does so much damage. They have ridiculous physical damage output, ridiculous magic damage output, and on top of that, he has some great nuke and disable himself. So very, very great hero. Probably going to go for that kind of standardized 0440 build and just have domination through the usage of that Ancestral Spirit. In the meantime, Troll Warlord, he has some great potential, mostly as a solo mid, but we have seen him in the carrier role previously as well. And the best part about him is that he not only outputs an immense amount of damage himself with his whirling axes and his right-click damage, but can, again, help out his entire team do a very large amount. You can imagine Battle Trance on an Elder Titan that has huge attack damage boosts from recently using his Spirit on multiple heroes. That is a force to be reckoned with, and reckon with it they indeed will have to. But Fnatic gets kind of the draft that they're looking for as well. We've seen this from them before. Lifestealer picked up by Era. Pretty much when you think of the best lifesteal players in the game right now, Era is easily in that top 3 list. He loves that hero, he plays it more than any other hero in the game, and getting the opportunity to use it here, he couldn't be happier. Now they will have to deal with things like the Bash. The Bash of course will go through Rage and other different factors, but right now I think they feel pretty confident in their lineup, and they can build around it very easily. The only thing they're really needing is a range support. Everything else is pretty flexible. Going back over to the bans, we do see that Timbersaw and Bounty Hunter have both been taken out by Virtus.pro, and Fnatic had banned out the Batrider and the Weaver, now banning out the Bane and the Crystal Maiden. So they're focusing on supports that can deal with the Lifestealer effectively. The Bane using Feed Grip or Enfeeble to circumvent the Rage, and the Crystal Maiden can be used against him as very powerful disables after Rage expires. So they just want him to stay on target. Getting rid of disabling supports means they don't have to worry about an Abaddon pick, and that kind of thing will be really, really important for them. Getting Queen of Pain here, that's going to be for Hani. Has some diverse item buildups for the Queen of Pain. Has gone for Boots of Travels, Ags Rush, Hex Rush, plenty of different things have been picked up by Hani on the Queen of Pain in mid. He also is able to play very, very aggressively up against heroes like Troll Warlord, who he can use the Shadow Strike against to kind of zone him out a little bit there. But again, the lanes could be changed up a little bit. Elder Titan is a great mid hero as well as a number 4 position, so we'll have to see exactly how they want to run these lineups here.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
So, moving things forward, what Virtus.pro is probably looking for is trying to secure those supports. They already have lost the Naga Siren, Bane, and Crystal Maiden to the draft, as well as the Wisp, if they had possibly wanted to use that. So those are all very high tier supports, but that doesn't mean the pool is empty. There's still plenty of different options that can synergize very, very effectively with what they want. The Visage is the one that comes to mind the most, but they're going to start off with the Rubik. The one reason that Rubik is just so darn powerful is not only because of the very reliable disable and telekinesis and decent damage output with the Fade Bolt, but the big deal is that spell steal. Being able to take Queen of Pain's ultimate and throw it back at her, maybe steal a blink, the net from Naga Siren, those are going to be big utilities, especially that Ensnare. If they can take the Ensnare from the Naga Siren and put it on the Lifestealer, it's going to be very difficult for Era to do the damage that he's intending to. So that's going to be a pretty big factor, but Nature's Prophet answers back with a little bit of Rat Dota. Now, a little bit of history. The phrase Rat Dota actually originated in this matchup here, Fnatic versus Virtus.pro, using like Nature's Prophets and Meepos to avoid team fights as much as possible and just push away while avoiding the fights. Yep, that's where Virtus.pro, the one matchup where they actually got quite disgruntled with it. They even called them rats for it, but they embraced that attitude and they say, hey, if it throws a wrench in the works, then we're going to do it. We're going to screw with you, be as annoying as possible, and put out pressure in every single lane. Along with that, it's one of Trixie's best heroes. Nature's Prophet, a great hero, a lot of potential, being very dynamically aggressive or passive, no matter what suits the team. So we'll see him being active presumably on the off lane, but he could just be starting off in the jungle as he's up against a pretty devastating tri-lane. The Rubik, the Visage, and the Troll Warlord all picked up for that top lane, and that can get pretty dicey pretty quickly for him.
Reserve time.
So the final pickups, it looks like Virtus.pro is either going aggro try and picking up just a safe lane solo, or they're going to be picking up an off laner. Either way, they need one individual that can go by themselves and survive pretty effectively. In the meantime, Fnatic, all they have to do is pick up one range support, and like I said, there are still plenty of different options, but Rubik and Visage are probably the two best ones, so we'll see. With most of the time, I've seen Fly running the Naga Siren, so it could be No Tail picking up something a little more micro-intensive, like one of his Chens or Enchantresses, or it could be something more simple, dedicated to the lane. Shadow Demon comes to mind, but I don't think they're going to need it for this lineup. They need a little bit more damage, so we'll see.
5 seconds remaining.
Luna's going to be the ban for Virtus.pro. They were assuming a kind of tri-core lineup, and that's definitely possible. Like I said, it could have just been a safe lane solo hero and a safe lane solo Luna, while Troll Warlord is putting pressure out in the tri-lane. Can be very, very devastating, and I don't want to negate Elder Titan's tri-lane presence as well. If he was run as a... I can't legitimately say he's a number 1, but just put in the farming role in a tri-lane, his damage combined with Fade Bolt, just go Ancestral Spirit, Fade Bolt, and then follow up with a Soul Assumption, that's a dead support, instantly, 100 to 0, because of how much sheer damage outputs very, very readily. Of course, they have to get a couple levels to build that up, and the experience will be split 3 ways the entire time because of the fact that it's an aggressive tri-lane with no independent neutral pulls. It's still very, very important to note how much they can actually deal if they do coordinate their efforts.
Reserve time.
So, 10 seconds left on the reserve time. We're going to see Fnatic's final pickup here for their support, presumably for No Tail.
5 seconds remaining.
And it is going to be the Enigma, so that's very fun. That is a very, very fun lineup. Essentially, what they're trying to say is, Virtus.pro, if you want to put pressure out on us, you have to be spread out at every single second, because the second that you're not, Naga Siren's going to pop the Song of Siren, Enigma will just waddle on in there with or without a Blink Dagger, and he'll have the black hole started before the song even ends. And from there, we'll see the Sonic Wave rip through, the Wrath of Nature go across, and even a little bit of AoE damage from the Enrage, or the Infest. So they really do have a great team fight lineup, but they also have some good split push, some good farm. I think Fnatic right here are going to go for more of a mobility-oriented build on Lifestealer, pick up something like maybe the drums or even the Sanj and Yasha, just to put out pressure early, because they are looking at Virtus.pro most likely picking up one more core hero, and as aggressive as there it is, and as aggressive as Virtus.pro tend to be, they want to exploit their weakness by trying to put out pressure with heroes that can act a lot sooner, and that means as soon as Enigma's level 6, as soon as Lifestealer has one core item, they can start just chunking through them. But I want to talk about this Ursa pick real quick before we get into the game itself. This is a hero that puts a lot of different things in the hands of Virtus.pro. First and foremost, the Battle Trance synergizes well with Ursa and stacking up his Furious Voice very, very quickly. Of course, he does have max attack speed from Overpower, but that only lasts for a handful of attacks. So all in all, we're talking huge amounts of physical damage on targets that have no base armor. You couldn't ask for a better Lifestealer counter. You really couldn't. You may not have the disable on him guaranteed. You have to get some lucky bashes or pick him up, catch him up out of rage. But the bottom line is, if you can get on the Lifestealer with the Battle Trance active and possibly even the Ancestral Spirit's aura, just bringing him back to basics, that actually will be perfect for controlling him and very, very limiting for him. So again, going through the roster lineups, we do have Fly picking up the Enigma, going to be headed to the jungle immediately. No-Tail is going to be supporting on the Naga Siren with Era down bottom on the Lifestealer. Then we do have Trixie. Interesting build, could be going for either route. I think he is going to go for top lane and try to at least block off this neutral spawn a couple times. If he can manage that just with the Treants alone, then he'll have done his job, limiting the supports. In the meantime, we are going to be looking at over at Hani on the mid lane, starting off with a Null Talisman being pulled Tangos and Salves, making the most of that tactic while it's still available before 6.79. And that is it for Fnatic. Looking over at Virtus.pro, we do see NS is going to be playing the Visage, warding things up nicely. Light of Heaven on the number 5 Rubik. GT, also I believe known as Admiration, is the Elder Titan. And he looks to be making his motions toward the tri-lane. What is Ursa doing all by himself down here? That's my question. Now, they're going to rotate the supports. They're going to have the Elder Titan solo top. They're going to have G on the Troll Warlord solo in the mid lane with his Poor Man's Shield and also pool regeneration. And they're going to have this tri-lane down bottom with Arzart playing Ursa, carrying it up, and with the support of Rubik and Visage at his back. So that'll leave Trixie up here. He'll get some good dedicated experience without interrupting Fly's jungle. But it does mean that they're going to be under pressure down bottom very, very early, especially with Ursa and now finding his Invisrune and Earthshock, scouting things out. Or just blocking off the pull there. So interesting movement so far. Looks like they thought that it might have been a tri-lane, but it looks like No-Tail is actually going to find an ensnare here. Going to put some pressure out onto GT. He's in a bad spot. He's going to tunnel all the way through, or attempt to tunnel all the way through, but he's messing it up a little bit. One more Tango. He has plenty of Tangos. Finally gets across to where he's going, and he will be able to survive, just barely salving up. Luckily, he does have that Stout Shield. The Treants don't do that much damage when the block occurs, and that's really, really important for him. But nevertheless, they didn't get the first blood. They just put out pressure on the lane, and I think that means now Fnatic has to rotate much more actively. Looks like it's almost Era playing a solo off lane lifesteal in the sense that he is 1 versus 3. He is suicidally just trying to survive with his rage, and he can manage to do that probably more than any other hero on the team. So he just won't be getting farm, and that's the one thing that they have to take into consideration. Nice ward action coming out from VP. Already starting off, they have great vision of exactly what's going on between No-Tail and Fly up in the Dire jungle, and that means G won't be caught off guard anytime soon. Very, very important. As far as the mid matchup, 7-1 last hits for Hani. We're seeing that it's actually only 5-2 for that of G, but Trollworld has a lot of great tools to catch right back up in a short time period. It looks like they do want to make that flank motion to try to bring down G, but with this ward, it's essentially impossible. They have to smoke it, and they didn't bring any with them. So he's going to be safe and sound. Oh, they're still going to try for it. They're getting pretty close. The ensnare will go across. Will this actually work out for them? The Malefice will come across with the Shadow Strike, and I think that's going to be it. That is going to be first blood going to Hani. And despite having a ward here, despite having full vision of the Naga Siren's movements, he just didn't get out of dodge fast enough, and unfortunately, he does feed away the first blood. So things looking pretty well for Fnatic. They're getting the exposure on the jungle, despite the fact that the pole camp was blocked off by wards. And on top of that, of course, they did score the first blood in what I would consider a very kill-oriented team. I mean, Enigma can take it to the late game pretty well with a couple of core items, but if Era's not getting the CS farm, which of course he's only 1-0, then he better have his teammates be getting the kills. Alright, a huge flank coming in. Rubik is here to help this time around, but G is just in such a bad position here. He has Shadow Strike, running for his life, only 250 MS. Man, it looks like No-Tail might be able to get in snare range. No, G takes the southern route, and it looks like there's going to be telekinesis to stun out the two supports. That means that G, trying to juke, not succeeding, and now Hani is right on his heels. Era gets the open wounds off, and this should be the death of the Troll Warlord once more. A couple of misses of auto attacks from the Whirling Axes. But in the end, the kill will go to Hani once more. So, Ursa getting free farm, 16-9. He is getting top of the CS charts, but the question is whether it's worth it when you compare it to the fact that they've already lost 2 lives on behalf of the Troll mid, and he is going to be hugely disadvantaged experience-wise. Hardzart making some smooth moves. 2 points in Fury Swipes, 1 in Overpower, and it's just enough to put the pressure on Era and force him back with a salve. Trixie 15-10. Unfortunately for Elder Titan, he's only sitting at 9-2. That will be easier for him once he actually bottom lane. No, Rage will keep him up and kicking. Anyways, it will be easier for Admiration to CS with the Spirit as soon as he gets 4-4. But for right now, he is only level 4. He's doing what he can, but it's just he's falling behind. Quick creep pull going from Light of Heaven. He's going to connect it with these Wild Wings in just a moment, timing it carefully. And it looks like Trixie's going to have to let that go through. So that will be some nice denial of the creep wave, a little bit of experience there, and a little bit more farm for Light of Heaven and Admiration. Meantime, this mid lane is actually really, really difficult for G. Surprisingly, he's not that experienced disadvantage because there were always 3 individuals involved in the death of G. But still, Hani is moving very, very rapidly up the experience per minute chart and putting himself in a good position to start ganking actively. Now we do see actually the fight breaks out here. No-Tail takes a huge hit from the Soul Assumption, but it won't be enough to finish him off. Arzar getting body blocked by Fly. He will go down. No-Tail juking in the trees. NS will find that Soul Assumption at the last second, but now getting Malefist up. Open wounds on cooldown. It looks like he will just barely be able to get out of there with the Boots of Speed. But yeah, in the end, a 1-for-1. But that is the death of the Ursa, who up to this point had been just having the game of his life down in bot lane. Interesting enough, the stand-in has decided to pick up the Earth Splitter at level 6. It's not a bad ultimate to have at level 6. It's just very difficult to set up. You pretty much have to have a great telekinesis and either a bash or a Grave Tilde followed up. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to dodge, to be honest. But even as area denial, it's still rather potent. It just costs an extensive degree of mana. Actually, Note was rotating up there. We'll keep an eye on that. Looks like he's not going to be able to find anything for himself, though. And it is going to be the Troll Warlord to move for that Invis-Rune. And that could actually be very, very dangerous for Era. He's already getting slowed by the Grave Chill. Right now, there is no Radiant Vision in this position. And actually, finding kill up top. Always going to be missing something, but there's action all across the map. They do find a little pick off on the low armor Rubik, but now we're going to see G make a move on the bot lane. Has his Invis Rune, has the rank 1 Berserker's Rage, wards behind the tower, and they should be catching sight of Era very, very shortly. He's actually, going to walk just barely into their vision range. But it looks like G has his sights on Fly. If he pops the Invis Rune, he will be able to just walk up and finish him off with a Battle Trance alone. But unfortunately, he has no understanding of Fly's positioning, and he's not going to be able to actually take that opportunity. Instead, it looks like on mid lane they want to drop down a Sentry Ward and ensnare him underneath it, but G is playing very cautiously as he has been having some issue staying alive in the past few minutes. And that leaves Era 1v1ing versus Arzart, but Arzart has the upper hand with those Fury Swipes. Wailing away at Era, he doesn't care if Era rages out. The only thing Era has going for him is essentially a second health bar with this Infest heal. Trixie kind of pinned down. The Earth Splitter will go across. It actually might connect here. No, just barely getting out of the radius. Now Hani going to pick up a regen rune, make his way towards the top lane. Very mobile, very destructive. Just Admiration has to watch himself. But the only kill that's actually going to come out of all this is Era finding a kill on Arzart after No Tail does pop off that ensnare. So again, both these teams are so aggressive and have action going across the entire map. But to this point, the only ones that have really suffered the wrath are that of the Troll and that of the Ursa. Troll finds an opportunity here. Will he go onto Lifestealer? Era is very, very close to Infest range of these creeps. He already uses it, and that means G cannot engage on this position here.
Dire's middle tower.
Pinging it out, it looks like Fly has some understanding of the position of G, but they don't have any Sentry Wards at the moment, and it looks like they're just going to have to wait for it to expire.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Looks like G would like a TP onto the mid lane if he did get one in assistance, and he did get a lucky bash off. Hani could be in some trouble, but right now he's full HP, nearly full mana, and with that regen rune, he can pretty much just do whatever he wants. They have to commit at least 3 heroes to him in order to bring him down, and that does seem unlikely at this point in time. I gotta say, I'm impressed with how well Trixie is sustaining in this lane. The amount of harassment that comes out from an Elder Titan with Arcane Boots is actually very, very considerable. Now mid lane, a lot of damage coming out. It's gonna be a black hole onto NS himself. No Tail will get out of there just barely, and Trixie's lend the assisting hand to bring him down. That's 2 deaths for absolutely nothing as they initiate on the mid lane. Sonic Wave popped. That was what was allowed them to burst down the Troll Warlord as rapidly as they did, and the Dire War placement just not giving them the vision they needed to avoid that gank. Now pressure coming in the tier 1 tower. Treants wailing away with that Basilius Aura active. Scouting out the top rune, they'll find a double damage, and in the meantime, top getting some pressure on top of it. So, Rubik has finally hit level 6, but his only steal has really been a Scream of Pain. It's solid, it's very mana efficient as far as damage output on multiple heroes, but it's not going to be the game changer here. Actually, coming in, again ignoring his own wards, G gets Infest bombed, and there's a double damage. Hani maybe dropping down, 70 HP, does survive, and now it's going to be NS dropping very low. Throws out the Soul Assumption, that's the last thing he throws before he gets dropped down. No Tail popping the song to get out before the Elder Titan could wreak any more havoc. So again, a very, very clean getaway for Fnatic. They take 2, they lose nothing, and that just continues to cement their advantage in this game. 3,000 gold advantage, 4,000 experience advantage. It's the best of 3, but this first game is already looking to be very difficult for Virtus.pro to get back from. Now they do have Trixie's Midas. This is going to just jump up his experience in gold further and further, and Era has kind of bounced back. Remember, this was the guy that had no CS at the beginning of the game. He had 1 CS in like the first 4 minutes. Now jumping back, he has 22 CS, and more importantly, he has 2 kills, 3 assists. He's been active, he's been ganking, and that's because this hero is extremely strong in early game aggressive plays. Now we do see some movement on Roshan with the Battle Trance, it should be enough to actually make this work for them.
Bottom tower is under attack.
Dealing 500 plus bonus damage per hit. Arzart will be able to take this guy down and take some nice experience, gold, and an Aegis the Immortal. So good position for them to be in. And that was a pretty early timing of just around 12 minutes without a Vladimir's.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Now, as far as wards go, we do see 2 placed on the mid pretty effectively here. Unfortunately, that Sentry ward is out of range of the one the Radiant had placed earlier, but that one's expiring and not too far away. Oh, actually down bottom, Era just mans up on top of the Ursa. Along with Hani, they are able to bring him down twice over. Aegis Immortal first, his life second. Light of Heaven tries to come in and help out a little bit. Era is going to be forced back. But just all the same, that's 2 deaths on the Ursa. Their only saving grace was getting that Roche, and they threw half of that advantage away right there. Now No-Tail pops the Ensnare, a big creep block coming in from Trixie's Treants, and with the perfect dodge of that ultimate, they actually might be able to finish him off. He does have quite the movement speed boost from the Astral Titan buff. No-Tail won't be able to finish it off and get that Ensnare. But in the meantime, they're split pushing. If they're not killing heroes, they're killing towers. And right here we see Tier 1 top being pressured by Prophet, Tier 1 bottom being pressured by just about everybody else, and it's forcing the first fortification from the Dire.
Bottom tower is under attack.
Here's Arzart. He wants some blood, but really there's no way for him to actually finish this off. He pursues. There is some growling going on, but Ancient Prophet doesn't really have anything to prevent him from TPing away at this stage. Lifesteal gets the last hit on the tower, and Era's GPM shoots up to a rather impressive 260 when you consider he was suicide laning down bottom. And that aggressive play from Ursa. Arzart is now dropping down for his what could be considered 5th death of the game. 1 Aegis, 4 deaths. He keeps on going into these positions where he has no place being, unfortunately for him. You look at Dire's vision, and they see nothing but their creep waves. They see good vision on mid, they got the bottom rune under control, but as far as Arzart's position, has absolutely no idea what he's going up against. Unfortunately, that's the perfect opportunity for Fnatic to make rotations and to pick him off, using things like Ensnare.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Looks like there's going to be pressure onto Era. He's actually manning up against a Battle Trance bashing Troll Warlord. I don't feel confident about that, but he certainly has a different opinion with a perfect max damage Wrath of Nature going across from this level of Nature's Prophet. And of course using the Infest to keep himself up and sustained. That was just a really, really nice turn of events for them. They obviously, this is what I was talking about at the beginning, their team coordination from having played with one another for such a great period of time, and now they can make some magic happen up top. The song will expire in just a moment, but they have 4 heroes in a great position to bring down Light of Heaven in no time at all. No-Tail once more, he's pursuing deep, but looks like he's not going to be able to find anyone. Either way, a song for a Rubik, a Wrath of Nature for a Troll Warlord. These are great usages of the ultimates early game, and in fact, they're actually trying to pursue underneath the tree line to find Visage, but he has used his TP scroll to escape. Sorry, a little hiccup on the stream. That should be sorted out, and we can proceed forward with, hopefully, the video quality you guys deserve. Now we do see Invisrune trying to flank underneath to try to bring down the Naga Siren, but doesn't know which illusion is which. And now he's actually going to get ensnared. Not under... Yeah, he is under tower. He's in range. He's going to try to TP away. The damage won't be enough. The Infest wasn't popped. The Scream came across, but the Infest didn't. So, he does get out by the skin of his teeth, but now is kind of stranded. Sitting on 435 movement speed, not even heading down bottom. He realizes he just can't get to the fight fast enough to be relevant, but he might be changing his mind now that he sees Hani's positioning. Rock comes out onto G. Unfortunately, there's no getting out from this position here. And you could tell their aggressive mentality from the beginning. You saw Era getting infested inside Hani. They wanted to burst, they wanted to gank, they wanted to get some kills, and they're finding them left and right. Just the positioning isn't there for Virtus.pro. They're getting caught out by themselves. They are great heroes for sustaining themselves in a 1v1 situation, but when it comes down to other heroes getting involved, this is a team game, and right now Fnatic are playing as a team, whereas Virtus.pro seem to be just individually playing as great players individually, but getting picked off when it comes to the actual numbers. So they're at a severe disadvantage, 14-2. They cannot afford more losses like this. Roche respawning in approximately 4 minutes. That'll be a factor for Ursa and Troll to try to take down pretty soon, but I'm not sure if they can. To be honest, they're just losing so much left and right. We've got the Mechanism up on Enigma. He's got his black hole. He's ready and willing to use it at any time that he needs to. But now we see the Song of Siren. They're going to set up a great black hole. This is a 3-man black hole with no hope of it. Actually, they do have the Familiars to interrupt it. Stun comes out. Fly can't get it set up, and Let Heaven lifts him up. They burst down the Enigma. They get the stomp off. Trixie taking a lot of damage here, and he will get dropped. Double kill for Admiration, but he is getting killed off on the back end with Hani hasted. Era right-clicking away, and now finding NS, trying to pursue, but they change their target over to bring down 2 heroes. Oh, so close, but they do not catch the Troll Warlord. They're only able to clean up the Rubik there, and the Troll just slips away. Once again, very, very narrow. But, my goodness, that was actually a pretty good fight for VP to start off. Obviously, they lost a considerable amount later on, but if you look at the red bar right here, the red squares, this is their first kill in a very long time. Killing off the Enigma, turning around the team fight. It could have been a lot worse for them if the familiar micro wasn't there. So, props to NS. He did at least make something out of a very, very, very bad situation, but obviously, given the experience in the gold graph, the 2 towers they just lost, it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. And looks like there are still some stream hiccups. I'll have to deal with that after the first game concludes. But I'm assuming it's just an RTMP thing with the servers that we're connecting with at the moment. Not a big deal.
This is ours.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Arzard caught out by himself, no TP scroll, getting bursted. That's going to be the death of him. And Rage stolen by Rubik, but of all the spells in the game to steal, it's probably one of the least relevant. It can help you against some of their burst, but really, what we're looking at here, we've got a lot more going on from the Enigma, from the Naga Siren, and yeah, even like a Global Teleport would be very fun to steal. Now smoking up, getting a little aggressive, No Tail and Fly want to start something. Cool thing is they don't even need extra heroes to be in the smoke. They've got the Nake's bombs, they've got the initiation, all the initiation they need, and the Malphus will come out. No juking in these trees, and he is going to get ensnared. Meanwhile, though, Troll bursting down. The Nature's Prophet taking a lot of damage there. Light of Heaven only steals Midnight Pulse. Not going to do anything there, and now Hani's on the front line. Doesn't have his ulti, doesn't need it. It's just swinging away. It looks like Ursa is actually going to, with the help of Troll Warlord, get things turned around on top of Era. But now Hani's back in the fray. We'll see if he can make anything happen here. No Tail, snares, Arzard. There's that burst I'm talking about with the ultimate active, but it looks like they're not going to be able to seal the deal, and they will head for the hills. Actually, Magic Wand up and available. There's that Riptide. Huge burst coming out, and they will be able to clean up G. I'm not even sure what he thought he was doing there. Arzard tried to run, but Hani's just a little bit too quick with that blink. So they cleaned it up 22-7, and I'm expecting, yeah, there's the GG.
Dire's bottom tower has fallen. Fnatic victory.
It's going to be that. And we don't actually get the throne destroyed, but we get to check out this nice serene river scene while we wait for the scoreboard to pull up and check out the results. Looking at that, Enigma sitting at 9 assists. Nature's Prophet helping out quite a bit with a participation of 16 out of 22. But gotta say the playmaker there was Hani on that Queen of Pain. 8-0 and 8. All over the place. Like I said, he loves to rush up that Boots of Travel. Was able to do some work with it later. But in general, just the fact that Lifesteal survived on that bot lane for a little bit. They broke down the laning phase Virtus.pro had to transition their supports substantially, and their lifesteal bounced back a little bit on its last hits, and as a whole, they just got huge amounts of aggressive kills across the board. So, Rat Dota no more. This was a fighting Fnatic, and they certainly socked it to Virtus.pro in this game one of this best of 3. But Dota 2 Champions League, we're looking at a best of 3 series, so we'll see what these two teams have in store for this game 2, and if Virtus.pro can bounce back. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Once again, I am Blaze. You can check me out on twitter.com/blazecasting. And this is the Dota 2 Champions League. We'll be bringing you guys the next game in just a minute.